Another ex-CIA director comments on UFOs, and he shares what he calls a paranormal story. Having studied subjects for approximately 15 years, I can tell you that the phenomenon is quite vast, touching upon all aspects of humanity. This is on Collective Spark by Arjun Walia. So if anyone has heavily researched the evidence behind paranormal phenomenon, it's common to hear about other paranormal phenomena is simply normal. After all, the evidence does suggest paranormal events in life happen all the time. Culture simply has not caught up to realizing how normal these events are, and those who recognize how normal these events are include scientifically minded people like Dr. Jessica Utz, who is former chair of the Department of Statistics. She's also professor at the University of California, Irvine. What convinced me was just the evidence, the accumulating evidence as I worked in this field, and I got to see more and more of the evidence. I visited the laboratories even beyond where I was working to see what they were doing, and I could see that they had really tight controls. And so I got convinced by the good science that I saw being done. And in fact, I will say, as a statistician, I've consulted in a lot of different areas of science. The methodology and the controls on these experiments are tighter than any other area of science where I've worked, she says. So that was her comment on remote viewing. It's a phenomenon where people are trained to view details about places and objects from a position very far away. It illustrates the non-local nature of our consciousness. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. So remote viewing shows the non-local nature of our consciousness. The remote viewing studies Utz is talking about are incredibly rigorous and yielding repeated results time and time again. And when it comes to, and they have also used various viewers bringing up the same information. Now, when it comes to numerous experiments at the quantum level, consciousness has been shown to have some sort of effect on physical and material reality as well. There are also topics such as precognition, telepathy, and more examples of mind-matter interaction like distant healing, which are quite intriguing. Distance healing. Now, what I find, she says, most intriguing are the examples of people with special abilities. I came across much of this documentation via the CIA's electronic reading room. Examples of children and people with psychokinetic ability, able to break through spatial barriers by teleporting small objects in small containers from one location to another, perform paranormal writing, and more, and all were done under controlled double-blind conditions. So when it comes to the topic of UFOs, they're going mainstream with extra legitimacy as well. This has many people concerned that mainstream media and government disclosure will result in perception manipulation regarding the phenomenon. Many longtime researchers feel we'll get a sanitized version of disclosure. That is to say, many key details will be left out purposefully, yet the government will claim all has been told. Having studied the subject for about 15 years now, I can tell you that phenomenon is quite vast and touching all aspects of humanity. And there's a lot to the UFO story that I don't think people will ever hear about from governments and intelligence agencies. Anyway, if you want to go to the article on the subject, you can find the link here below. Now, the former director of the CIA, John Brennan, from 2013 to 17, director of CIA, was recently asked about the UFO phenomenon, and he expressed his belief that we may be dealing with some other form of life. This is what he said. I think some of the phenomenon we may be seeing continues to be unexplained, and might in fact be some type of phenomenon that is the result of something that we don't yet understand, and that could involve some type of activity that some might say constitutes a different form of life, end quote. Then James Woolsey, another retired CIA director from 1993 to 95, also spoke up on this same subject in an interview with John Greenwald, founder of the Black Vault, a resource for declassified documents pertaining to UFO-related phenomenon. In the interview, he describes an interesting paranormal event that happened to a plane that was frozen and stopped in the air at 40,000 feet. He also makes a number of comments about the UFO phenomenon. A friend of mine was able to have his aircraft stop at 40,000 feet or so and not continue operating as a normal aircraft. What was going on? I don't know. Does anybody know? We'll have to look into it. There have just been enough things like this that have occurred. So why is this important? Paranormal phenomenon, the study of parapsychology, has the potential to create a major paradigm change for humanity. In fact, it's happening now, and we're living in it, and part of this phenomenon involves non-material science. I believe this field represents the next scientific revolution and will push humanity to open up to a broader view regarding the nature of reality, who we are, and who we relate to our universe. There is still so much we have to discover. Now, the UFO extraterrestrial phenomenon is not even the tip of the iceberg. There's so much to learn, and we hope that the phenomenon itself somehow sparks humanity to ask itself deeper questions about the human experience and why we live the way we do, when we have the potential to do so much better and create a planet where all life can truly thrive. Again, it could be that mainstream media and government may try to shape the perception of masses when it comes to this subject, as they do with so many other topics. Now, many decades ago, the mentor of Wernher von Braun, Hermann Oberth, the founding father of rocketry and astronomics, also known as the father of spaceflight, stated his belief that flying saucers are real and that they are spaceships from another solar system. He went on to say that, quote, "I think that they possibly are manned by intelligent observers who are members of a race that may have been investigating our Earth for centuries." This is what he wrote. He wrote these words in Flying Saucers Come from a Distant World, the American Weekly, October 24th, 1954. Now, at the International IFO Congress, that is Unidentified Flying Objects and Identified Flying Objects Congress, hosted in Wiesbaden in Germany and organized by Carl Kate from 1907 to 2001, credulous UFO impresario and president of the Deutsche UFO-IFO Studiengemeinschaft DUIST, Oberth repeated claims first made in 1954 that he was no longer willing to exclude the possibility that UFOs could indeed be of extraterrestrial origin. Having examined all existing arguments, Oberth proclaimed in front of many hundreds of people who apparently believed that the Earth had been visited by emissaries from outer space, as the Times wrote, that he was now convinced flying saucers were very real and carrying visitors from outer space. Oberth later repeated that the UFOs are a kind of sentinel, here simply to observe and report, because a humankind which is as gifted as inventors and researchers as we are, yet has remained politically and morally on our stage of development, constitutes a threat to the entire universe. Perhaps he's right. Perhaps there are multiple groups observing. Perhaps some are concerned for multiple reasons. The UFO extraterrestrial topic is a very deep one, and endless discussions and questions can emerge from this, especially when discussing if these ETs and their UFOs are benevolent or malevolent narratives. So this is from Creative Evolution here on Collective Spark under Creative Commons. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.